You were wrong. You were disgusting. You were going to burn in hell. You don't matter. You don't belong. I grew up in Mississippi. I told my family and community that I was gay over 12 years ago. I remember the day I came out. It's stereotypical to most and completely unforgettable for me. I remember walking across Mississippi State's campus on a hot August Mississippi day towards the chapel. Now, the chapel had always been a sacred space for me, one that I would go to sit and listen when I needed an answer. I was terrified because I'd just gotten off the phone with one of my spiritual mentors, so I knew I was about to get a lecture. Once I sat down in the pew, I remember looking up at the stained glass windows and getting this surge of comfort, a comfort that disappeared quickly. Next to me in the pew were two Fellowship of Christian Athlete leaders, a married couple. They were quoting Bible verses to me, the same ones that I'd been hearing throughout the day, along with other hateful comments. They said that the Bible said that if I continued to participate in a homosexual lifestyle, that I would burn in hell. I sat there. I listened. I tuned out what I could. And at some point, I went numb, and all I could hear was a rumbling of voices. I glanced up at the front of the church at some point, and I saw Jesus on the cross. And in that moment, I felt closest to him. I somehow knew what forgiveness was going to mean for me, and I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. All I could hear was my heart breaking. The worst was happening to me. I was no longer a person. I was a label. And who I'd been and who I was, beyond that label, did not matter anymore. I felt a warm hand touch my arm, and it was the man. He had a question for me. He asked me, "Are you still in a relationship with a woman?" And with my head down and a sick feeling in my stomach, I looked back up at them, and I lied. No. "Okay," he said. "Well, let's say a prayer, and you can be on your way." You know, a part of me died that day, my hope in others and my belief in myself. Telling that lie wounded my soul, and shame became a part of me. They were responsible, but I also knew somehow I was responsible. But how was I supposed to deal with my turmoil, my lack of self-worth? My family couldn't be there for me. They were struggling. I felt completely alone. There wasn't anyone there to say, "Hey, Meagan, this is how you walk through this." So now I had these voices in my head just playing over and over that I now had to figure out a way to deal with. "You were wrong. You're disgusting. You are a liar. You are a failure. You don't belong. You are less than." Needless to say, I ran away from Mississippi for a while. I had to get out from under the pressure of society. I was gone for about 6 years, working, traveling, trying to start my speaking and writing career, getting into bad relationships. I even dated a guy for a split second. More than that, I was searching for a religion or a spirituality or a way of thinking that would fill me up. And although I've embraced many ways of thinking over the years and different beliefs, there was still this emptiness. I was a mess, insecure and unsure. And it's not that I thought that moving back to Mississippi would bring me confidence. Absolutely not. In fact, I did not want to move back to Mississippi. But I knew that if I did not face Mississippi at some point, that I would never, ever find my confidence again. Before I moved back to Mississippi, my life coach at the time asked me a really important question that I've carried with me. She said, "Meagan, who do you want to be when you move back to Mississippi?" That's a good question. And I thought about it, and I answered. I said, I want to be calm, peaceful, kind, compassionate, accepting, loving, understanding, all of the things that people were not for me when I came out of the closet. But I also lived in reality and knew that I had a lot to work towards. I've been back. Yes. I've been back in Mississippi for about 7 years now. Yes, I'm still there with my beautiful wife. We originally moved back to my hometown, but that was too hard to deal with, so we moved about 30 miles away. And there have been countless times where I've turned to Claire, my wife, and said, "Can we just move anywhere but here? Can we just get out of here? Can we just go to Palm Springs?" There have been so many times when I have blamed my inadequacy on other people, and it has never led me to fulfillment. So I had to begin constantly asking myself that one question: who do you want to be in this moment? And once we got back to Mississippi, I knew I was going to face a lot of people that had hurt me in the grocery store, at restaurants, at the post office. And that was really scary for me. I remember walking into the grocery store numerous times, seeing someone who would bring up fear in me, and literally turning around and walking out. I didn't need that avocado. No guacamole for me. I wasn't ready to face questions like, are you married? Do you have a boyfriend? You got kids yet? And at some point, I was ready to walk into the grocery store, see someone who brought up fear in me, and I just gracefully walk to the other side and avoid them. I'd get to the avocado eventually. And then at some point, I was ready to actually face people and have interactions. I'd walk into the grocery store. I would meet them at the avocado stand. So eventually I ran into that guy from the chapel. He's right. The guy that told me I was going to hell, the one that I lied to, his business just happened to be right across the street from our new location. Of course. He wanted to walk over and chat. Whew. What the hell do you do when your biggest fear walks through your door? What do you do when your deepest wound is being opened by the presence of another person? There was no turning around. There was no walking out. So he walked in. He leaned over the counter. He said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And this sounded awfully familiar. Timing has a way of catching you in a moment when you think you can't do something, and then gracefully reminding you somehow that your best self is ready to emerge. All the baby steps had led me to this point. This was one mountain I knew I could climb. So I answered him. I said, yes, but just give me a second. I ran off to the bathroom. And when that door was closed behind me, tears started to emerge. My fears started to come up. And just as I was on the verge of a complete panic attack, this still, small voice within said, who do you want to be in this moment? Then I was able to see my fears for what they were. I was scared of being rejected. More than that, I was scared, terrified of not being authentic. Then I was able to see beyond my labels. I am enough. I opened that door. With all the courage I could muster, I walked back up front. I walked around the front counter. He stuck out his hand to shake mine, and I refused. But instead, I opened my arms, and I invited him in for a hug, and he accepted. Being who you are and speaking from your heart doesn't always need words. He just wanted to chat about the difference between life coaching and counseling and whether he should get his coaching certificate. And I didn't need him to tell me that he was sorry. I didn't need him to tell me that he hurt me. I just needed to be me. And who knows? Maybe he had to pray for 30 minutes before he came over to have that chat with me. Maybe he had to get in touch with who he really was too. People always say to me, Meagan, why do you live in Mississippi? Why do you want your wounds and your fears to be thrown in your face every day? Now, originally I thought, I'll move back to Mississippi so I can make a difference. That's funny. When I got there, I realized I was moving back to heal. And I believe I've done that for the most part. I'm still healing every day. But I don't have to be in Mississippi to do it anymore. I get to choose to be there because my wife and I have built a life there. It's not about where you are. It's about what you're running away from or towards. And people always say to me, Meagan, you don't always have to walk in people's shoes. You don't always have to be so kind and understanding. Remember, you are the one who has been wronged here over and over and over. And for a minute, I kind of agree. And I go there, and I think, it'd be so much easier to just close off my heart and put up my fist. But it doesn't take me long to remember that closing off my heart and putting up my fist isn't who I am. I am not a victim to the law, to the church, to myself, to Mississippi, to the KKK, or to anyone else that I perceive as the other. In fact, the KKK began recruiting locally a couple of months ago in my hometown. They were leaving these flyers on people's cars. I'm just going to read some of it to you so some of you can't read it. It says, "Sleep well tonight, knowing that the Klan is alert and awake. Wake up, Starkville." That's my hometown. "Get off the fence, Whitey, and join the only group that has ever stood for the white man." Do you feel that fear? Yeah, I felt it too. How do you sleep at night when you know that our national climate is choosing divisiveness? It feels like there's this huge wall being built between us. I cried after seeing these flyers circulating. I didn't know what else to do but cry. And after my tears dried, I had to ask myself, who do you want to be for your community? Do I want to be angry? Do I want to spread more fear? Am I willing to embrace others? Am I willing to forgive? Being who you are is hard work. Working through your fears is hard work. It is really hard work. Forgiveness is ugly and uncomfortable. It will make you want to throw up. But it has been the only thing that has led me to fulfillment. We live in a time where we're being called to approach peace in a different way, and it has nothing to do with changing others, and everything to do with forgiving. I believe that the ability to reclaim the life that you want is directly linked to the ability to forgive. I know, because my wife and I recently moved our business, our lives, and our home back to my hometown. And for the first time since I came out, something really strange happened. Some full circle, and I am fulfilled. It was unexpected, and I never honestly thought I would be able to say that again in this lifetime. Now, when I look at Mississippi, I don't see a place that hurt me. I see a place that healed me. I see a place that showed me my strength. I see a place that now I get to look beyond its labels too. And that's how I know I have forgiven. And now I am free.